Hi everyone, it's Alex from Risk Academy, and this is part 3 of the 5-part video series on being devil's advocate, which I feel personally is a great role to play for the risk managers going forward. And I'm sharing stories on what are the things, what are the puzzles, what are the pieces of the puzzle that are required to really play devil's advocate. In the first video I said you need data. You need information, and that information has to come from reliable, independent sources, not from business management, not from front office, or not only from front office. It should be verifiable, and that's very important. When you're using risk workshops to just ask management about stuff and then feed that back to them, that is just circulating lies. That is a waste of time for risk managers. You need to have data from other sources. And risk workshops, by the way, are useless, which I have a separate video on. Second one, I talked about tools. And I've mentioned that all the tools that currently are used in non-financial companies are absolutely useless because they focus on understanding the nature and the level of risk, which is totally missing the point, because if you're wanting to integrate into decision making, you should be taking a step further and you should be communicating, well, how does that risk information actually impact on the objective or the decision at hand? After all, risk is effect of uncertainty on objectives. And this is what you really should be focusing on. And watch those videos on the Risk Academy YouTube channel if you haven't seen them. And today, the third one that I want to talk about, what is the other piece of the puzzle that risk managers must have? And that's competencies. Once you say that it's all about, data which is independent and verifiable, it's all about different tools, Monte Carlo simulation, decision trees, it sounds simple, but it's actually not. It requires a different set of skills. I mean, unfortunately, most is probably not fair. I'll retract that. Many modern day risk managers in non-financial companies do not have the basic financial modeling and mathematics and statistics competencies and knowledge to be able to apply those tools and process the information. So I have a video on 4 competencies, one of the first videos Risk Academy ever did on 4 competencies risk managers must have, and I do encourage you to watch that video, because right now I'll just quickly reiterate what are the 4 things. And the 4 things are this. You need to obviously know what's happening with the international standards in terms of risk management and the best practices. So you really need to be aware of things that Norman Marks is publishing, for example, or things that are happening and changing in ISO 31000. You really need to know that as the risk manager, to be able to recognize patterns, to be able to see that things like that David Hilson is saying about integration into decision making. And that if that is what those people are saying is different to what you think, you need to be able to critically reassess, well, maybe you've got it wrong, maybe you need to start thinking about risk management differently. So the first one is understanding standards and what are the trends in risk management. That's actually pretty simple. Second one is everything to do with mathematics. You really need to apply every single tool that I shared in the previous video. You need to have proper financial modeling and statistical background. And it doesn't mean you have to relearn that, but it does mean you have to get someone in your team who has the right competencies. Third one is psychology, risk perception, cognitive biases. You need to understand how human mind works. You need to understand decision-making process. You need to understand decision quality process. For example, the book written by Karl Spitzer and others, who I apologize, I cannot remember their names. It's called Decision Quality. You need to know the research, and there has been extensive publications in Harvard Business Review on decision making and decision quality. You need to know the foundations of research by Vernon Smith, Amos Tversky, Daniel Kahneman. If those names don't mean anything to you right now, you are in a very, very wrong place. As the risk professional, you simply cannot afford not to understand and appreciate all of that research. Those 2 guys got a Nobel Prize in 2002 in economics, and they got it for understanding how risks impact on decision making. I mean, it's pretty embarrassing, for people who still are not at the level to get all that knowledge. And it's all publicly available, so make sure you really get those competencies in. And those competencies, it's not just someone in the team who needs to understand that, it's you, the head of risk or the risk manager, who needs to know how human mind works in situations of uncertainty, and why you shouldn't trust certain people, and how you can pick up on when people tell you, not quite the full picture or tell you the truth. And the final competency is the fourth one: understanding the business process, understanding the intricacies of the work that you're doing. For example, if your organization is investing in real estate, in student housing, well, then you have to understand how does student housing in a particular part of the world works. Or if your organization does pharmaceutical research, well, you need to understand some of those things as well. So there's a huge element in understanding business, and those are the 4 competencies. There's probably more. Do write underneath the video what else should a risk manager absolutely know to be a good devil's advocate. There's probably like all the soft things about communicating with senior executives and gently proposing an alternative point of view, or telling people things that they would not be happy to hear. There are all those soft competencies as well. But what else? What else do you think? Do write underneath the video. For me, for now, thank you, and see you in the next video.